Welcome to another FORGEHUB video. This is Psychoduck, and today I will be kicking off a series of in-depth design talks. If you are familiar with my previous work, you'll know that I have made design talk videos in the past on my old channel. I wanted to make some improvements to the video format when bringing this series to the FORGEHUB channel, however. In this first video, I want to talk about taking a more scientific approach to level design. As a disclaimer, I want to make it clear that there is no single correct way to design a map, and that everyone's process will be a little bit different. However, my goal is to outline a proven process which I have seen in action for years, both within the Forge community and in a professional setting at 343 Industries. Designing a level is subject to an iterative, evolving process. A lot of work is involved from a map's inception to its final testing hurdles, and, of course, an artist's work is never truly finished. While everyone begins this process a little bit differently, going in blind is not recommended. Rather, it is best to spend some time pre-planning before moving forward. At this stage, it is important to define what you want your map to accomplish. Nailing down the desired player count, primary game modes, symmetry, and other details will create a foundation to build from as you move forward with the design process. This stage is also a great time to begin thinking about specific types of experiences you want players to have on your level. Once your foundation is in place, you can move on to the next stage of the process. At this stage, designers produce a basic version of their layout in order to visualize the space before committing to a higher level of detail. Paper designs are a good way to start, but this stage of the process will vary based on your own workflow preferences. Whether you opt for a paper sketch or even keep everything in your head, the goal here is to create something flexible. Beware of becoming too attached to details of your layout at this phase, as there will be a lot of iterating later in the process. One of the biggest mistakes a designer can make is to refuse to change elements of their design throughout the process. At the next stage, designers normally create a mass out of their level in a program like Autodesk Maya. The goal at this stage is to create a physical space which can actually be played on and to observe how it plays. Mass outs are efficient because they are made before any resources are invested in art, meaning that they can be rapidly iterated on before anything is finalized. If too much is committed to art too early, it will become more time-consuming to make changes down the road, hindering the testing process. At 343, they referred to this part of the process as finding the fun. This is where a designer can really find what's special about their layout and can lock that down while continuing to iterate on other elements of the design. Halo 5's Forge is actually an excellent tool for creating mass outs because of its upgrades to usability. It allows for the sort of rapid iteration which is required to mold a space during this stage. In its early form, a mass out can be used for tuning lines of sight, routes, and jumps, as well as the scale of a space. Once this has been done, playtesting can commence. Testing is one of the most important parts of this entire process, but is also subject to a lot of common mistakes. A designer should take all feedback with a grain of salt, as acting on feedback prematurely can lead to unnecessary and uninformed changes being made. A levels designer should always have the final say on what changes are made to a space throughout this process. It is their vision which defines the map. With that said, a designer certainly needs to be open to making changes in the first place. Sometimes testing may indicate that a full redesign of a space is necessary, and a designer must be prepared to accept this outcome. Designers need to be open in going back and changing aspects of a design which were seemingly nailed down earlier in the process. Despite these sacrifices a designer will likely need to make throughout the testing process, they should still be empowered to stick to their original vision for the level when possible. There are several traps which testers fall into when providing feedback as well. Jumping to conclusions about how a map plays based on limited subjective empirical data is a common mistake. Testers need to be objective in their analysis of a map and not base their feedback purely on their own personal experiences. It is also unfortunately common for a tester's objectivity to be questionable if their personal performance was poor during a playtest. Studying trends observed over time is also much more valuable than looking at results from an individual playtest. Much of what testers observe as issues with a level are actually mere symptoms brought about by underlying problems with the design, and a good designer must be able to infer what these problems are from the symptoms which become clear during playtests. The testing stage will likely be the longest part of the process and will see lots of experimentation and iteration. Testing should initially focus on assessing the broader aspects of a design and will narrow down to more specific elements over time. Eventually, the testing process will pass into a polishing phase when most aspects of the design have been solidified. At this stage, resources can be invested into arting the space without fear of substantial changes invalidating the work that has been done. A final challenge for a designer is drawing the line and deciding when a level is finally complete, as a design is never truly perfect. For forgers not bound by industry deadlines, this is less of a challenge because they are never forced to actually ship their product. With Forge projects, one individual is usually responsible for virtually every aspect of a level's design and art, contrasting with professional map creation where designers must eventually pass the space off to the art team. The give and take between art and design is thankfully much less complicated for forgers as a result. Creating a polished multiplayer map is a long process which is subject to lots of iteration and evolution. Each designer can bring their own unique skills and vision to the table, and everyone will work through this process slightly differently. However, designers must be mindful of this process if they are to create a quality map, as dismissing any of these steps will ultimately detract from the final product. Forging may be an art, but design is a science. This has been Psychoduck with the FORGEHUB video team. Thanks for watching.